The reason I ended up dating my nemesis, Mike, all started with a ridiculous bet. 2 days ago, I was at a friend's get-together. One of the youngest girls in our group was celebrating her birthday, and she was demanding something a little daring. Ironically, she wanted the thrill, but I ended up paying the price. We were playing a very grown-up version of Truth or Dare. And my challenge came up as date any guy here for a month. Amid the rowdy cheers and teasing, I glanced around at the guys in the room. Not gonna lie, they were all pretty attractive. So, I shrugged. Fine, I'll date someone. But just as I was about to pick my target, Miss Thrill Seeker chimed in again. Hey, if it's going to be exciting, then make it really exciting. I rolled my eyes. What now? Blind selection, she declared. The plan was simple. All the single guys would pluck an eyelash, and I'd pick one without knowing who it belonged to. Whoever's eyelash I picked, I'd have to date him for a month. I thought it sounded fun. After all, watching each guy go behind a screen to pull out an eyelash was pretty entertaining. Until Mike got up, I frowned. Wait, why is he in on this? He's single, isn't he? Someone reminded me. Mike turned around and gave me a smug, cold smile. Pick me, and you're in for it. I froze. All I could think was, please don't pick him. Anyone but him. We'd been at each other's throats for ages, and dating him was just begging for trouble. Finally, all the eyelashes were collected. My friend brought over the tray with a mischievous smile. I leaned in to look. There were 7 eyelashes in total. Some were long, some short. Some thicker, some thinner. I pointed to one and asked, why is this one still wet? Did someone actually cry? She laughed. Hurry up, just pick one. The eyelashes were impossible to tell apart. In the end, I picked the damp one, laughing. Guess I'll go with this one. A man's tears now, that's thrilling. She glanced at the number on the tray. Number 4, who's that? The first time, no one answered. She called out again, then a third time. Finally, Mike crumpled up a napkin, grumbling to himself. And with that, everyone knew. I looked over at him in silence. He sighed in exasperation and stared up at me, eyes slightly red from where he'd plucked his eyelash. The light caught in them, giving them a soft glimmer. I sighed to myself, honestly. His tears were anything but thrilling. And that's how Mike and I ended up in a relationship for a month. But it only took a few days before I was ready to call it quits. The main issue? Mike is exhausting. According to our little dating game, no matter what fights we had in private, the moment any witness from that night was around, Mike and I were required to act like a couple. Which meant that as long as no witnesses were around, we could drop the act. To avoid the whole mess, I resolved to steer clear of all those friends for the entire month. But while I could manage that, Mike apparently couldn't. On just the second day of our relationship, he texted me like he was actually my boyfriend. Mike, Jenny, have you eaten? I was taken aback. Did you hit your head or something? Mike's reply was calm. Dan's next to me. Dan was one of the people who witnessed our game that night. So, I quickly unsent my last message and patiently typed back, not yet. Have you? Mike replied, come downstairs. Let's eat together. After a breakfast that was weirdly too much like a real date, he invited me to the library for a study session. With Dan present, I couldn't exactly tell Mike off. So I made an excuse. Can't. I'm going shopping with my roommate. But Dan just had to pipe up, since when do people go shopping without their boyfriend? Mike could carry bags and pay for stuff, perfect shopping partner. I shot Mike a look, hoping he'd chime in with some excuse. Instead, he just took out his wallet. Use my card. Was he serious? So I faked agreement to the whole shopping thing, and the moment Dan left, I dragged Mike off to a quiet spot. Aren't you forgetting something? We're supposed to be avoiding them this month. He gave me an innocent look. Dan lives in the dorm right next to mine. How am I supposed to avoid him? Well, figure it out, I said. We're not supposed to actually date, right? He looked at me steadily. Then why'd you agree to the game in the first place? Because I didn't know I'd be dating you, I argued. His face darkened instantly. So you'd have no problem if it were someone else? I didn't respond. He threw out a bitter, too late. Now you're dating me, so just deal with it. And thus began Mike's relentless bombardment. Since he was constantly around Dan, I was constantly stuck acting like his girlfriend. If I so much as ignored him, Mike would run off to our friend group and start complaining. My girlfriend's being so cold today. This immediately set off a wave of responses. What's going on? You guys only just started dating. Aren't you two supposed to be in the honeymoon phase? What's wrong, Jenny? You breaking the game rules? I jumped in to defend myself. What, like I'm not allowed to be annoyed with him? He's driving me crazy. Fine, fine. Mike, you better comfort her. Mike, she's upset. Go make her happy. So. Right there in front of all our friends, Mike awkwardly sent me a voice message. Babe, don't be mad, okay? I'm not exaggerating when I say I had goosebumps all over. Our friends in the group chat were clearly thrown off by that too, and they erupted in endless teasing. I hurriedly logged off. And yet, even after closing my laptop, my tablet, and trying to busy myself, Mike's babe echoed in my head all night long. I even dreamed about him calling me that. The next day, sleep-deprived and miserable, I arranged to meet up with Mike. It's over, I told him. Not until the month is up. Mike hesitated. I'll explain to everyone myself, I insisted. I'm done with this game. It's terrifying. Mike looked at me intently. Finally, he gave a scornful snort, turned, and said, Fine. Break up then. Like I care. I breathed a sigh of relief. Regardless of his reaction, it felt good to put an end to this whole charade. Free from the boyfriend drama, I went back to my dorm, grabbed my blanket, and treated myself to a long, uninterrupted nap. I was finally woken up by the ring of my phone. Still groggy, I answered it, only to hear a tentative voice on the other end. Hello, is this Mr. Mike's girlfriend? I am, actually, no. I'm not. As I said it, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. So, am I or am I not? The voice on the other end, polite and cautious, continued, Well, he's been here crying for a while now. Could you come and pick him up? In that moment, my drowsiness vanished completely. What? I had a hard time processing this. It just didn't compute, Mike and crying in the same sentence? He might have a strikingly refined face, but he's hardly the soft-hearted, easily teary type. Mike was, by all accounts, the mature one in our friend group. While the rest of the guys were still wrapped up in parties and hangouts, Mike had already taken on responsibilities, helping his family handle their company's accounts. Before even starting college, he'd managed to seal a major deal under tight deadlines. With stress tolerance like that, it seemed impossible that he'd be here crying, and non-stop, at that. Yet. I went to the bar, still skeptical. The bar manager must have been exasperated because he actually stationed someone to wait for me at the entrance. I followed the staff member inside, and soon, I spotted Mike in a corner booth. But by then, a small crowd had already gathered around him. Pushing my way through, I was met with a startling scene. Mike, still wearing the same white shirt from our breakup earlier in the day, sat clutching a bottle. Eyes red-rimmed from crying. It wasn't the loud, ugly sort of crying. He sat quietly in the corner, lips pressed together, like a wounded child trying to hold it in, but still shedding silent tears. Every so often, he'd give a soft sniffle that was heartbreakingly vulnerable. I finally understood why there was a crowd around him. Because, somehow, he managed to make crying look beautiful. There was a fragile, refined sadness about him that was so striking, I felt a flash of an inappropriate urge. Catching myself, I shut down that line of thinking fast, took a breath, and walked over to him. "Mike, it's me. What's going on?" He glanced up, his gaze slightly unfocused with the haze of alcohol. Those tear-dampened lashes made my heart flutter in a way I hadn't expected. Trying to cover my reaction, I looked over at the bar manager. "How much did he drink?" "Just 1 bottle." he exclaimed, frustrated. "If we'd known he couldn't hold his liquor, we'd never have given him any." I turned back to Mike. "Do you know who I am?" He ignored me, wordlessly continuing to let the tears fall. Sighing, I sat down beside him. "What's wrong?" "This isn't like you." Mike didn't answer. The bar manager, however, did. "He doesn't want to break up with you." His voice took on a pleading tone. "Come on. Please don't break up with him. Look at him. Can't you just, I don't know, make him feel better?" The crowd murmured in agreement, echoing, "Yeah, come on, don't break his heart." Something told me this wasn't the real reason. But I humored them anyway. "If you don't want to break up, then we won't, okay?" Still, no reaction from Mike. The crowd, however, was getting excited, bombarding me with suggestions on how to comfort a crying boyfriend. Honestly, with all these people watching, I was far too embarrassed to try any of them. Instead, I asked Mike gently, "How about I take you home?" This time, he responded with a soft So obedient, so vulnerable. It gave me the strangest twinge. Even as the bar owner helped us get into the car, all I could think was, why am I actually having thoughts about Mike crying? Am I actually just a weirdo? It was well past dorm curfew by the time we arrived, so I had no choice but to take Mike back to my downtown apartment. Thankfully, after a short nap in the car, Mike had stopped crying. He was still a bit dazed, but surprisingly cooperative. I handed him a glass of water, he drank. I told him to wash his face, he did. Even when I instructed him to get into bed, he followed my words without a fuss. His compliance was almost too endearing, and it stirred a mischievous streak in me. I couldn't resist. Picking up my phone, I aimed the camera at him, hit record, and coaxed, "Mike, repeat after me." He looked up at me, nestled in my floral bedspread, his eyes soft and sleepy. "Mike is a dummy," I teased. "Mike is a dummy," he repeated obediently. I chuckled, then added, "Mike is a crybaby." "Mike is a crybaby," he echoed back. I bit my lip, half wondering if he was truly out of it or if he was just humoring me. "Mike likes Jenny," I ventured. He paused for a moment, but still parroted, "Mike likes Jenny." So he was out of it, I concluded. After all, Mike had explicitly told me he couldn't stand me. With my curiosity satisfied, I turned off the recording and slipped my phone away. "All right, time to sleep," I murmured, switching off the bedroom light. The next morning, I woke up to the aroma of breakfast. Mike had somehow taken it upon himself to make it. He was still wearing the same white shirt and black pants from yesterday. His shirt was wrinkled, a button was missing from one sleeve, and his hair was a mess, yet somehow, he still exuded an air of unstudied elegance. He set a warm glass of milk on the table and said, "Thanks for letting me stay here last night." So, he was fully sober now. I took a seat, biting into the sandwich he'd prepared, but couldn't help asking, "Why were you crying last night?" Mike's expression hardened. "I don't want to talk about it." "Was it because of our breakup?" He looked up at me, brow raised. "We weren't really together. Why would I care about breaking up?" My focus shifted. "So, if we were actually together, you would care?" That stopped him cold. After a slow, deliberate bite of his sandwich, he replied, "Do you think that would ever happen?" "Of course not. We both knew we could never be together." He didn't like me, and honestly, I wasn't too fond of him either. Still, as I continued to bite into my sandwich, I felt a sudden surge of irritation. Where did he get off being so smug? I decided to mess with him. You know, you said last night that you liked me, I said pointedly. Mike choked on his food, his face turning bright red as he sputtered, "No way." "Here's the proof," I said smugly, pulling out my phone to show him the recording. After watching it, Mike simply raised an eyebrow. "You made me say it." "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did," he retorted, his chin jutting up defiantly. "And the video proves it." Exasperated, I challenged, "Then why didn't you say you liked Dan when I asked you to?" "You didn't," he stopped abruptly, as if catching himself mid-sentence. I stared at him, suspicion dawning in my eyes. "Wait a second, were you even drunk last night?" "I was drunk," Mike answered simply. "Then why did you?" I started. "No one said being drunk means you forget everything," he replied, a hint of deflection in his tone. Though it didn't seem like he was evading. "I remember exactly what you did to me last night." I felt an immediate need to defend myself. "I didn't do anything." "Really?" He raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. "For someone who claims to hate me, you sure had a hard time letting go of my drunk self." "Doesn't seem like nothing to me." Before I could react, he leaned closer, catching me off guard. "Could it be that you secretly like me?" "Absolutely not," I protested, raising my voice to prove my point. Mike's amused smile faltered a bit. In the awkward silence that followed, our phones, lying side by side on the table, both lit up with a new message in the friend group chat. "Keep this weekend free, everyone. My brother's friend just opened a resort, and we're going to spend 2 days there. Oh wow, can't wait to soak in the hot springs. Apparently it's a couple's paradise. Think we'll be surrounded by lovebirds? Why worry? We have a couple too. Mike and Jenny, come on, say something." Mike looked at me in surprise. "You didn't tell them we broke up?" "I haven't had the chance." "Are you going to tell them now?" he asked. I glanced at him. "Do you want me to?" "Not really." Before I could ponder the meaning of that, he clarified. "I don't want them saying I couldn't handle it." Fair enough. I'd only agreed to this whole dating game because of the unspoken pressure to stick to the pact. "Why don't we just hold off on breaking up for now?" I suggested. "Suit yourself." Mike shrugged, his expression indifferent, as if being together or breaking up was all the same to him. I clenched my teeth in frustration. Maybe it was because Mike had been so insufferable all day. But that night, I dreamed about him again. It was high school Mike this time. In my dream, he'd come to my classroom, sitting on my desk and casually chatting with the boys who'd come to confess their feelings for me. What's so great about Jenny anyway? She's spoiled, dramatic, and has the temperament of a princess. Are you guys sure you can handle that? Back then, hearing him say that had made me run off. I couldn't stand his dismissiveness. But in the dream, I didn't run. I stayed, and I heard the rest of what he said. With an earnest look, he'd pleaded, "I can handle it. So could you do me a favor and let me have her?" I woke with a start, shocked. I had just dreamed up Mike confessing his love for me. Was I really at the point of having to imagine him liking me? Still reeling from the absurdity of it all, I saw a new message from Mike. "Hey, girlfriend, want to grab lunch together later?" My reply was immediate. "Dan is right there, isn't he?" "Yes," he answered. "Otherwise, why would I call you that?" With a huff, I tossed my phone aside, a surge of frustration welling up in my chest. How could Mike be so irritating? But right then, I made up my mind. I'd find a way to make him fall for me, deeply and irrevocably. And when he finally did, I'd be the one to end things. Leaving him stunned. Let's see if he could stay cool and indifferent then. It was a beautiful, sunny weekend when our group arrived at the resort. Dan was counting everyone present when he suddenly looked puzzled. "Where's Anna?" Anna was the girl who had initially sought some thrill. Someone replied, "She went to get the room keys." Before long, Anna returned with the keys. She began distributing them, and by the time she reached Mike and me, she had only one key left. Dan frowned. Why do you have one less? The front desk only gave us this many, she said, placing the remaining key between Mike and me. How about the little couple just share a room? Mike immediately distanced himself from me. He stood up and said, I'll go ask for another one. Just share a room, I called after his retreating figure. Boyfriend, are you afraid? The others around us began to egg us on. Wait. Are you too serious? Oh my gosh. Jenny, didn't you used to find Mike intolerable? When did you two start seeing eye to eye? We didn't ask for anything this intense, you two just keep it within your limits and don't go overboard. Mike turned around, looking back at me amid the teasing. I met his gaze with a confident smirk, and he let out a sigh. Do you really want to share a room with me? Of course, I replied. In the end, Mike relented. Like a timid little kitten, he dragged our suitcases behind him, following closely in my wake. I walked ahead, occasionally glancing back to see his troubled expression. I couldn't help but laugh. This was only the beginning. Once inside the room, Mike was clearly uncomfortable. Perhaps it was the teasing from our friends that stirred the imagination. Or maybe it was the large bed in the room that suggested endless possibilities. Either way, Mike looked as red as a ripe shrimp. What's wrong with you? I asked. He raised a hand to fan himself. It's a bit hot. I teased him, then you should take your clothes off. Mike paused mid-fan. I suddenly don't feel hot anymore. I suppressed a laugh, took my suitcase from him, and squatted down to organize my things. Mike began pacing around the room. His restless footsteps made it clear that he was quite anxious. Suddenly, he stopped in front of me. Why did you want us to share a room? I blinked. We are a couple now, so isn't it normal to share a room? Mike hesitated. But I shot back his earlier words at him. You can play around like this, you're not afraid, are you? I'm not afraid of anything, he replied. After saying that, Mike seemed to calm down a bit and started organizing his suitcase as well. The wind lifted the white sheer curtains by the window, and I was surprised to see a private hot spring outside. That's cool. There's a hot spring in our room too. Should we go soak in it together tonight? I said excitedly. With a loud thud, Mike's suitcase fell to the floor. He didn't bother to pick it up, avoiding eye contact with me as he hurriedly left the room. I couldn't help but mutter, that reaction was a bit much, wasn't it? At this rate, how could he not fall for me? In a good mood, I hummed a little tune. The girls in our group were calling for everyone to join them at the hot spring. I glanced at the two swimsuits I had brought. One was a black spaghetti strap, revealing and sexy. I had intentionally brought that one to tempt Mike. Since he was out of sight, I decisively changed into the soft yellow one-piece swimsuit. Just as I finished changing, Mike came back. He stared at me for 3 seconds. Then he abruptly turned his back to me, tilting his head up, with his hand covering his nose. I couldn't help but look down at myself. I wasn't revealing anything except for my arms and legs. I regretted my choice. If I had known he'd come back, I definitely would have worn the sexy one for a killer effect. Mike spoke in a muffled voice, Sorry, I didn't know you were changing. I'm all dressed now, I replied, annoyed. Mike still didn't turn around. Anna and the others couldn't reach you, so they sent me to call you. They're going to the hot spring. Okay, I'll be right there. Mike grabbed a bathrobe from the closet and tossed it at me. Put this on when you go. I grasped the robe's ties and slowly walked up to him. Why won't you look at me? He stubbornly replied, There's nothing to see. I teased, But you're already bleeding from your nose. Mike panicked and wiped his nose, only to find his fingers completely clean. I laughed and patted his shoulder. Just kidding, with a bewildered look on his face, I sauntered out of the room. When I arrived at the hot spring, Anna and the others were already there. "Jenny, come down quickly," someone called out to me. I tossed my bathrobe aside, lifted my leg, and stepped into the water, immediately garnering a chorus of compliments. "How did you manage to have such a big chest? A slim waist, and a perky butt? I'm so jealous. Is Jenny trying a new style today? That soft yellow looks so tempting on you. Has Mike seen this? I don't think he has. Otherwise, how could he let you come out like this?" I pressed against the stone wall of the hot spring, puzzled. What does this have to do with Mike? Of course it does. You guys are a couple now, my friend said. Fully into the drama. I was at a loss for words. After chatting for a while, my friend suddenly wanted to take selfies. Since my bathrobe was the closest, I grabbed my phone to contribute to their photo session. After a round of giggles and snaps, it was time to pick and send the photos. I was comfortably soaking in the pool when I suddenly heard a familiar voice nearby. "Mike. Repeat after me. Mike is a fool. Mike is a fool." Confused murmurs erupted around me. I was desperate to snatch back my phone, but the more anxious I got, the slower I was. I could only watch helplessly as they finished watching the video. The first girl who flipped to the video blurted, "Jenny, sorry. I thought there were more photos after this." "It's fine." I finally got my phone back. My heart racing as I turned off the screen. The gossip queens quickly surrounded me. "What the heck? What's going on with the video? Is that really Mike? The aloof and proud Mike? Did he really cry? How can he look so good after crying? You two aren't actually together, are you?" I picked out the key point to clarify. "We're not together yet." The video was taken when he was drunk. I struggled to explain the feelings I had when filming the video. Finally coming up with an excuse. I was worried he'd make me angry again in the future, so I intentionally kept this as leverage. Was he really drunk? It doesn't look like it. Sounds like intentional seduction to me. He even took the opportunity to confess. I thought he had cried, but now I think those red eyes are more likely just a crying makeup effect. Oh wow. Mike is quite the schemer. I hurried to interrupt their wild speculations. No. He really did cry. I don't believe it. With his personality, how could he cry? I don't believe it. He must have known you like guys who cry, so he did it on purpose. I don't believe it, no matter what you say, I just don't believe it. I helplessly chuckled. It's just a game, Mike wouldn't be trying to seduce me. Moreover, the more absurd reality was that I was the one trying to seduce Mike. The group finally let it go. On our way back to the room after soaking in the hot spring, Anna suddenly pulled me aside. She spoke hesitantly, "Mike might really be trying to seduce you." What? She whispered to me. During the eyelash pulling game earlier, I saw Mike deliberately wait until his eyes were wet before he pulled his eyelashes. She added. It seemed like he knew you'd pick the one that was wet. My mind went blank, overwhelmed by her words. It's not a secret that I like guys who cry. Whenever I read a novel or watch a drama where the male lead tears up for love, my heart feels like it's being gently squeezed. All tingly and sweet. That bittersweet jolt makes me lose my composure every time I see a guy cry. I get completely caught up in the moment. Almost everyone knows that a man's tears are my ultimate thrill. Perhaps because of this, Mike is also aware of it. But to say he cried to seduce me seems unlikely. After all, he really does dislike me. After thinking it over, I decided to test him a bit. I waited in the room, contemplating how to approach this. But as I waited until 11 at night, Mike still hadn't returned. I couldn't help but send him a message, "Where are you?" Mike didn't reply to my message, but he did come back to the room. At that moment, I was lying in bed. He seemed a bit embarrassed to look at me under the covers, constantly diverting his gaze. Dan invited me to stay up all night playing games, so I went over to join him. After saying this, he picked up one of the hotel pillows. I pressed down on the pillow to stop him from taking it. Doesn't Dan's room have extra pillows? It does. Mike reluctantly let go of the pillow. He glanced at me and added, I just came to tell you I won't be coming back to sleep tonight. It was clear he was making excuses. Watching him turn his back to leave, I quickly said, but I'm not feeling well. Mike paused in his tracks. I added, Mike, I'm not feeling well. He walked back over to my bed, leaning down to look at my face. What's wrong? I don't know, I just feel unwell. I curled deeper into my covers, my voice unexpectedly taking on a whiny tone. Mike hesitated for a moment before reaching out. Let me check your forehead. I relaxed and let him touch me. Not hot, you're fine, he concluded, then asked, what did you eat for dinner? Did you eat something that wasn't fresh? I had dinner with Anna and the others, I replied. I don't think so. Still, we should call a doctor to take a look, Mike said, clearly worried. I grasped his hand that was about to make the call and said softly, no, just stay here with me. Mike's wrist felt suddenly hot in my grasp. He opened his mouth but ended up saying nothing, pulling over a small stool to sit beside me. All right. You sleep. I'll keep watch over you. I turned my head to look at him. Mike had his head down, not meeting my gaze, but his ears were already flushed red. For a moment, I genuinely felt a fleeting illusion that he might actually like me. I casually chatted with him. Have you showered? Yeah. In Dan's room? Yeah. Why not shower in our room? Mike choked a bit. It's the same anywhere. Do you dislike my bathroom after I've used it? Of course not. But that's how you are, I teased him. You don't even want to share a room with me. Tonight, you plan to stay up playing games with Dan instead. No, I didn't, Mike insisted, sounding defensive. Then do you like me? Yeah. Mike suddenly looked up. Why are we talking about this? I feigned disappointment. Actually, there's probably no game plan at all. You just don't want to be with me. After saying this, I turned my back to him. I know you hate me. You can't even stand to be in the same room as me. I get it. Go be with Dan. It's fine, I'm not that uncomfortable. You can go, don't worry about me. That's not it, Mike stammered, momentarily at a loss for words. How could I hate you? But that's how you act. Silence spread through the room. I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself, Mike said softly. You treat me like this. And there's no way I can hold back. What are you holding back? I turned to look at him. In an instant, Mike leaned over. One hand braced beside me while the other lifted my chin, and he kissed me deeply. His breath enveloped me. As I felt the warmth of his quiet gasps, my cheeks gradually flushed. After the kiss, Mike spoke in a hoarse voice, holding back from kissing you. Even though the situation was becoming clearer, I couldn't help but ask. Why did you kiss me? Mike said solemnly, Jenny, I like you. I blinked, caught off guard by his confession at this moment. So, my teasing worked? Mike paused for a moment, then burst into laughter. So you really were trying to tease me? I raised an eyebrow. He reached up to tuck the messy strands of hair behind my ear before continuing, but I like you. Not because you're teasing me. It seemed he couldn't help himself and leaned down to kiss me again. Even if you weren't teasing me, I'd still like you. I pushed him away playfully. First, make it clear. Don't be a tease. Mike laughed and returned to the small stool he had been sitting on. He looked at me with a relaxed expression, which only made me feel more bashful under his gaze. I took the initiative. When did you start liking me? Mike answered honestly, since sophomore year. I was shocked and vehemently insisted it was impossible. How can it be impossible? You clearly disliked me back then. I recounted the past events in Mike's puzzled eyes. It wasn't dislike, it was liking, he corrected. I wanted to confess, but I was afraid you wouldn't agree, so I tried to dissuade any potential rivals first. Mike explained. You must not have heard the second half of my sentence. He added, I told them I'd pursue you, and anyone who was confident they could win over me could give it a shot. No wonder those guys suddenly backed off. Then why didn't you confess? Mike's voice dropped, sounding a bit wronged. Your attitude towards me changed suddenly. I thought you found out I was going to confess and were showing your disgust through your actions. Everything suddenly made sense. I had been acting against Mike because I thought he disliked me, while he assumed I hated him for liking me and hesitated. It was all a misunderstanding. He had liked me all along. I couldn't help but ask, what was going on the night you cried? I cried because I was sad. I didn't want to break up with you, he said. At that time, we weren't even officially together, it was just a game. I felt like I only deserved a few days of dating with you. How pathetic is that? I found it hard to believe. I suspected he was pretending to be pitiful and wondered if he had cried that night deliberately to catch my attention. Was the mascara you wore that night intentionally made to look wet? No. Mike said. I was too heavy-handed when I pulled off my lashes and accidentally made myself tear up. His explanation contradicted Anna's. I was almost certain he was lying. He was intentionally trying to seduce me, playing into my preferences. Thinking back to Mike's tear-streaked handsome face that night, I couldn't help but admire his skill. He made me lose my composure. Suddenly, Mike asked. If you were trying to seduce me these past couple of days, does that mean you like me a little bit too? I pretended not to understand. No. What? He was taken aback. I just wanted to seduce you into liking me, then dump you hard. I said deliberately. Now that you already like me, I don't need to put in the effort to seduce you anymore. Mike sounded aggrieved. Why are you thinking about dumping me before we're even together? Because you don't tell the truth, I replied. Mike seemed to catch on. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds later, his eyes turned red. Jenny, I just wanted to seduce you. What's wrong with that? I was completely stunned. Did he just cry on command? Can you be with me? Tears silently fell from his eyes. Why you can't look at me like that, I stammered. Why can't I look at you? Mike continued to cry. You know I like you. Yet you won't let me look at you. You're so cruel. No. If you look at me like that, I can't hold back. Mike pressed his forehead against my palm and rubbed against it. Baby, be with me, okay? In that instant, I felt the warmth of his cheek and the wetness of his tears. I thought, maybe I like him too? Otherwise, why did I feel so restless the first time he called me baby and couldn't sleep all night? The impulse to break up wasn't out of hate. It was love, right? It was probably because I feared things would get out of hand in this game. I recalled sophomore year. Was my opposition to Mike because I disliked him personally, or was it really about hating that he didn't like me back? As I pondered these thoughts repeatedly, I finally replied to him, okay, I'll be with you. Mike looked up. I leaned in and hugged him, whispering in his ear, I like you too. Mike. When fake couples turn into real couples, the most troublesome part is how this love game will come to an end. There are still 18 days left until the month is up. In other words, after 18 days, if I continue to be all clingy with Mike, our friends will definitely find out. The best course of action right now seemed to be to go public. Mike agreed to make it public and even insisted that he would handle everything. But something felt off to me. Just a moment ago, we were bitter rivals, now we were sweetly in love. How could that not feel strange? So, I thought about delaying the announcement of our relationship. I figured that if I could put it off for a while, then I would. Thus, Mike and I began our secret romance. But if only a romance could truly be secretive. On the third day of officially dating Mike, a hot post appeared on the campus forum. Surprise! The campus heartthrob has a girlfriend. The accompanying image showed a tall guy pressing a petite girl against a tree, kissing her passionately. Wow! Mike is so affectionate with his girlfriend. I thought he was going to follow in James's footsteps from last year, maintaining a cold and aloof persona. But how long has it been since school started? Can you believe how little time has passed? Who is his girlfriend? Has anyone figured it out? You can't tell at all, it's all very well covered up. But honestly, that height difference is adorable. You can tell from the hair that she's a real beauty. Her figure is amazing. The post quickly went viral and appeared in the friend group chat moments later. Mike, come explain. Can't you see that girl is Jenny? What? How did you figure that out? So what's going on with these two? At Mike at Jenny, you both come explain. Are you really together? Our game rules didn't say you could kiss anytime, anywhere. At that moment, Mike and I had just finished kissing. He used a tissue to wipe away the saliva around my lips, and I scolded him, "You're not allowed to cry anymore. This trick doesn't work on me." He softly agreed. Reaching for his buzzing phone, he leaned in to give me a quick kiss on the mouth again. I rolled my eyes at him. I couldn't stand this kissing maniac anymore. Mike held his phone and said, "Our relationship has been exposed." What? I grabbed my phone and finally saw the chat records in the group and the kissing photo in the woods. I kicked Mike away. This is all your fault for insisting on kissing that day. Mike fell to the ground and sat there, discussing with me. Baby, can we make our relationship public now? It seemed there was no way to keep it under wraps. I lay back on the sofa. Whatever. Finally, Mike began typing earnestly in the group, "Thanks, everyone. Jenny and I are officially together." It was about time. It's good that all our efforts to get you two together paid off. You both clearly like each other, so why keep pretending? Hurry and be sweet together, don't make us worry. I was still confused as I hugged my phone. What's going on? Mike crawled over from the ground and sat next to me. Clearly, everyone knows that we actually like each other. I thought back to those childish times when I would purposely bicker with Mike. Burying my face in his chest, I said, "It's over, I'm too embarrassed to face anyone now." Mike stroked my hair and sighed. "Why are you so cute? Now I want to kiss you again." I quickly pulled away from his chest and created some distance, but he laughed and grabbed my hand. He pulled me into his embrace. And with one kiss, he silenced all the words I hadn't said. In a daze, I thought that tomorrow, my lips would definitely be swollen and I wouldn't be able to face anyone. The end.